I've never been that glad to see such a bad grade. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Nicole and I'm a first-year medical student studying at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. In today's video, I'll be talking about my thoughts on my first semester of medical school. So firstly, grades. This semester I didn't do exactly really good. We have three main med classes. First, there's public health, and then there's foundation of health sciences, and lastly, there's anatomy. So for public health, I got an A. For health sciences, which is basically like biochemistry, plus information about cells and one lecture about the immune system, for that class, I got a B. And for anatomy, I got a C+. And I actually walked out of the anatomy exam feeling like I failed. So when I opened my grades on CUHK, I've never been that glad to see such a bad grade. Seeing that C+, I was like, oh my god, I'm so glad I passed. Yeah, so those were my grades. As for the things I've learned in this first semester, I think it can be broken down into 5 main areas. 1. Figuring out what resources you have and filtering what to use versus what to not use. When the semester first started back in September, I found a lot of resources that I could be using in order to study for my classes. There were pre-lecture notes that our professors would give us before each lecture, and that was intended as a brief summary of the upcoming lecture, and it was a good way to prep ourselves for what we would be learning. There were also senior notes from upperclassmen that have been passed down throughout the years, and they were these seniors that had excelled in their exams, and they had put their notes in a Google Drive for other people to also use. We also had a lot of past papers, which were past year's exams, and because exam questions are often reused, I know a large portion of students in my year would study using past papers in order to figure out what to learn. However, when it came down to studying, or for me cramming for my exams, I felt like there were so many resources that I could be using and I didn't have time. So I think that's one of the big things that I should be working on for this upcoming second semester, is figuring out which resources that work for me and what doesn't. I found that past papers didn't really help. Doing some of the multiple choice questions were kind of helpful because the questions were reused, but I feel like my time could be better spent making my own notes. Similarly, senior notes are pretty comprehensive, but those are notes of other people's thinking processes. At the end of the day, I think the best thing for me is to take my own notes because it's tailored towards what I don't know and how I learned the concepts. There were pre-lecture notes that I didn't take advantage of in first semester, and I feel like this is something that I would definitely use in this upcoming semester, because reading the pre-lecture notes before going into the lectures is, number one, much easier than previewing the slides because there's a lot of slides, and reading the pre-lecture notes gives me a good idea and a good framework when learning in the lectures. The second thing I learned is the merits of recorded lectures versus attending lectures live on Zoom. So during the first semester, I mainly relied on watching recorded lectures. One pro of this is the fact that I could listen to the lecture at a much faster pace, and listening to a lecture at 1.5 or even 2x speed would actually keep me more engaged because our professors tend to talk more slowly. And when I listen to my professors talk very slowly, I am hanging on every single word they're saying. And this takes a lot of energy for me. So I actually prefer listening to lectures on a faster speed. Additionally, since the lecture is recorded, I can always play and pause the lecture when I'm taking notes to make sure that I have everything down. However, I also find that attending live lectures means that I actually work more efficiently. So if I see that if I'm attending a live lecture, I tend to finish my notes once the lecture ends. There's a much bigger pressure on me to write notes more quickly because I know I most likely won't go back to re-listen to the entire lecture, and I can't pause the lecture in the moment because it's going on live. I wouldn't want to fall behind, which means that I'll finish my notes in the time allotted. So this is one of the advantages of actually attending lectures in real time. One issue I struggled with last semester was falling behind on my lectures because knowing that it would be recorded, I would often put it off until the very last minute. So one thing I'll be trying this semester is actually attending all my lectures live, even if it's really early in the morning, because I feel like overall this would be a better use of my time. In the past, when I listened to a recorded lecture, say that lecture was like 2 hours. So I would listen to the lecture on 2x speed, which in theory should only take me 1 hour. But because I was taking notes and I would take my time, take breaks, play and pause the lecture since it was recorded, I ended up actually taking over 3 hours to finish my notes on a 2-hour lecture. In comparison, if I attended a real-time lecture, I feel like I could get my notes done in the time of the lecture. So this will be one thing that I will be experimenting with in the coming semester. Number 3, finding a study method that works. In comparison to high school, I find that studying is a whole new different ballgame in college. In the past, I could always just cram for my AP exams or any major exams that I had coming up. Number 1, because the content was much easier back in high school, and going to class in high school had an accountability factor. We always had little quizzes throughout the year, and that kept me accountable with studying and making sure that I understood the topics as they were taught. However, in med school, because our grades are only defined by an essay we write and the final exam, there aren't any mini quizzes throughout the semester, and this doesn't keep me accountable for what I'm learning. What ends up happening is that I would attend a lecture and then I would forget about everything until it was time for me to study for my exams. So in second semester, I plan on experimenting with other study methods. I am a huge fan of Ali Abdal's YouTube channel, and I know he talks a lot about active recall and spaced repetition. So my plan is to implement some of his strategies and see if that helps me do better in my final exams. Hopefully, I won't be getting a C+ in my second semester. The fourth thing I learned after my first semester of medical school is the importance of time management. I know this could sound cliche, but time management is really, really important in college, especially given the fact that our schedule is really flexible. Lectures are recorded, so sometimes I don't even have to go to class. And overall, I just have huge chunks of time throughout my day. In comparison to high school, where I would have to wake up early, go to school, and I'll get home around like 4:30ish, that was like my entire day blocked out already. However, in college, I'll have afternoon classes on Tuesday, and then no classes on Wednesday, and then maybe a morning class on Thursday and Friday. There's really huge gaps of time that I am not spending on studying. There's actually huge gaps of time throughout my week, and I really want to be using my time efficiently and intentionally to do the things I actually want to do. I've realized from my first semester that there's really so much time in my schedule, and I could have so much more time to read or pursue any interests that I neglected during high school because of time issues. And in order to do this, I need good time management skills. One thing I'll be doing in order to improve my time management skills would be planning out my week, looking at the times I have classes, and more importantly, blocking out times that I am free and allocating that time to do the things I want to do. This month, I'm aiming to draw every single day and also read more nonfiction books, so I'll definitely try to carve out time to do those too. The fifth thing I learned is the importance of having a direction. I think one question that I have to answer for myself is, what exactly do I want out of my first year of medical school? At CU, our first year is considered a honeymoon period because we only have 3 medical classes. We have public health, anatomy, and health sciences 1 for semester 1. And in the second semester, I'll be taking cell and tissues, health science 2, and a bioethics class. So our schedule is actually really empty in comparison to med students studying in year 2 onwards. And a lot of seniors actually advise that we take up a minor because we have the time to do so. This was what I was initially considering. In my first semester, I wanted to minor in psychology and economics. So in my first semester, I took a micro class. In this semester, I signed up for 4 psych classes. But after thinking about it, I think what I really want is to just take a variety of classes that interest me instead of boxing myself into a minor. Okay. And just because we have the time doesn't mean that we have to do a minor. I know some people that aren't going to minor in anything. I also want to spend this semester spending more time on my hobbies. One thing on my list is drawing. Another is learning how to use Photoshop, learning graphic design, typography, learning how to take good pictures, and just reading more. I've fallen behind on reading in high school. I also really want to spend more time reading nonfiction because there's just so much out there to read and learn from. Currently, my goal is to read 44 books in 2021, and so far I've read 3 books. So I'm off to a good start, and I'll check back in 1 month's time to see where I am. Alright, so those are the top 5 things I've learned this semester. If you found this video interesting, like, subscribe, and leave me a comment below. I'll be making more videos about my life as a medical student studying in Hong Kong, and I'll also be making a series of videos in the future about tips for IB students. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.